Caloroga Shark Media.
From Poolside, I'm Johnny Mac with today's Daily Comedy News. An exciting day. Not only is June 4th, the anniversary of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Have you seen it? It's pretty good. Also today, we get a new special from Joe Coy. It's Joe Coy live from Brooklyn. Yes, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. In this uproarious stand-up performance, Joe Coy fearlessly dives into the quirks of modern life, offering comedic observations on everything from energy-sucking individuals, the evolving landscape of digital communication. Out on Netflix today. Now, Joe Coy, if you're not familiar with him, he's like sort of an insult comic. He went after Taylor Swift one time. It was just absolutely vicious. It's hard to explain unless you listen to it. Let's listen.
As you know, we came on after a football doubleheader. The big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL, on the Golden Globes, we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift.
Also out today on Prime Video, Marlon Wayans' Good Grief, Rachel Scanlon's Gay Fantasy on Comedy Dynamics, Luke Kidgell, Cheers to That, premieres on the 800-Pound Gorilla YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Central. And Sam Ellefson releases his new comedy album that's called Minnesota Nice on Burn This Records. All that today. Over the weekend, Robert Smigel and George Wendt led an all-star cast in a new installment of the Bears Superfan sketch. Now, I went to pull the audio, and it just wasn't flying. I was sitting there, and I'm like, maybe this part? No. Maybe this part? No. Smigel and Wendt reprised their characters as Carl and Bob. Jason Sudeikis stepped into the role of Todd O'Connor, originally played by Chris Farley. Now, I did not know one of these upcoming facts. Late Nighter tells us Sudeikis had 3 points of connection to the Bears sketch. 1, he's a former SNLer. Okay. 2, grew up in Kansas. All right, maybe that matters in a second. And 3, is George Wendt's nephew. I didn't know that. Anyway, the Bears superfans had 2 guests. They were Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and tight end Travis Kelce. At one point, George Wendt made a reference to Travis Kelce teammate Harrison Butker, who is facing some backlash for some comments he made recently. I'll leave that there. George Wendt told the Kansas City crowd, Happy Pride Month, or as your kicker calls it, June. Kelce said, let's not get off track here. Sudeikis asked Kelce when he planned to make an honest woman out of girlfriend Taylor Swift. He said, Taylor doesn't need to be working anymore. And Sudeikis said, and I know your kicker agrees with me. This is the first proper Superfan sketch since Farley's passing. The last one was a pre-taped piece when Farley hosted SNL in 1997, 2 months before his death. The New York Times with an interesting angle. They ask, is this season of Hacks trolling Jerry Seinfeld? This by Jason Zinnemann. I like Jason's work a lot. Jason writes, coming off a triumphant special, Deborah Vance, who is the lead on Hacks, is trying out new jokes and is rattled to find her audience laughing at everything, no matter how funny. Like most comics, she spent her career developing material by gauging the response of the crowd, but must confront a problem familiar to superstar stand-ups. Her new fan base has disrupted the artistic process. She panics at the idea she can no longer trust her audience. Jason Zinnemann writes, no comic has expressed faith on the crowd as often or is with as much conviction as Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry has said that his fame might buy him a few minutes of goodwill from an audience, but after that, he has to be funny to get a laugh. Zinnemann writes, after seeing Jerry perform many times on Manhattan's Upper West Side, this has always struck me as hard to believe. Yeah, I'm wondering now that Stand Up New York has moved out of the Upper West Side where comedians will duck into. That was a little bit out of the way. I mean, as much as, I don't know what it was, 75th and Broadway, some street like that could be, quote, out of the way. But it was a place where pretty big comics would go in and work some stuff out. That club has closed that location, and they either are moving or are about to move to Times Square. Zimmerman writes, maybe if Jerry went on stage and read The Great Gatsby, as Andy Kaufman used to do, he might bomb at the Beacon Theater, but I wouldn't bet on it. This next thing kind of threw me a little bit. At 72 years old, Deborah Vance, the fictional character, is only 2 years older than actual Jerry Seinfeld. I guess it's because I keep projecting Joan Rivers onto Deborah Vance, and I was thinking about this over the weekend, and I know I mention that all the time, but it's relevant. Deborah Vance is kind of superficially Joan, just in terms of an older comedian who works at QVC, or maybe Deborah Vance works for Home Shopping Network, I forget. Other than that, they're really not that similar, but I never thought of Deborah Vance as a peer of Jerry Seinfeld. But yeah, Jerry's a little older than he is in my mind, right? Deborah and Jerry share a prickly personality, an inexhaustible work ethic, a love of craft, and a generally apolitical perspective. I don't know if that's true anymore. Whereas Seinfeld is a modern of stubborn veteran consistency, Vance listens and learns from younger critics and repeatedly evolves. Spoilers for the new season coming up. In one episode, a video of Vance's cheap, stereotype-driven older jokes goes viral right before she's to be honored at Berkeley. This leads to a whole cancel culture thing. Jason writes, it's hard to imagine Jerry doing what Vance did. Not only does she appear on a college campus to answer for these offensive jokes, but she also apologizes and invites feedback. Would a comic her age really listen and take her lumps at a public forum? I'm going to say no. In the fictional universe, not only does everybody love her, but her actions result in a New Yorker profile that celebrates her. Zinnemann writes, I imagine Hassan Minhaj got a grim laugh from that plotline. Famous comedian Stormy Daniels has added a second night to her one-night stand. I guess now it's a two-night stand in New Orleans. The first date sold out. Somebody she was in news headlines with made the news, and I guess that drew some more attention to Stormy Daniels' comedy. She'll now be hosting a second show at the Always Lounge and Cabaret on June 20th. The June 19th show is sold out. Stormy Daniels will, of course, perform a stand-up comedy routine. There'll be a Q&A portion of the show. I don't know. Do you have any questions for Stormy Daniels? What would you ask her? Following the set, there'll be a meet and greet where guests can take a photo with her and receive her autograph. Yay. One social media user commented, "You're trash," to which Daniels responded, "Better than being convicted." I'll leave that there. Move on, John. Netflix has released a trailer for Outstanding, a comedy revolution. Director Paige Hurwitz chronicles the history of queer stand-up comedy as a societal force. This will be out on June 18th. It features Lily Tomlin, Billy Eichner, Joel Kim Booster, and many others. It examines how LGBTQ plus comedians sharpen their wit amid a struggle for equality. There are archival stand-up performances from Sandra Bernhard, Wanda Sykes, Eddie Zard, Hannah Gadsby, Tig Notaro, Rosie O'Donnell, Margaret Cho, Bob the Drag Queen, and Trixie Mattel. Joel Kim Booster said specials from left-wing and right-wing comedians are like TED Talks now. You state a political opinion, then you get applause. That's clapter, when you agree with something that someone's saying on stage, but it doesn't make you laugh. Tomlin said participating in the doc made her reflect on her own trailblazing work. Lily says, I wanted to create a world that made more sense. The world is open, and being able to relate to gay people, I feel proud I was part of that. I just can't think there are more people unlike us than there are people like us, and I don't mean gay. I mean human. So I'm really excited to share with you on Saturday my interview with Mark Malkoff. He hosts the Inside Late Night podcast. He also used to host the Carson podcast. We talked a lot about late night and related things. If you would like to hear it early, it's been released for premium subscribers. Go to the link in the show notes, caloroga.supportingcast.fm. $5 a month. You'll get this program and the other shows on the network commercial free, plus the occasional bonus episode. It's already there. Like Becky, she signed up. She probably already listened. The bad news, Becky, is you're not going to have an episode on Saturday because you've already heard it. I don't know. You really want me to do an eighth one? It's summertime. I'm already doing it poolside, Becky. Come on. Have you seen Billy Gardell lately? I didn't even recognize him. He looks fantastic. He says his 150-pound weight loss journey started when he underwent bariatric surgery in 2021. He jokes, I went from a young Jackie Gleason to an old Paul Newman. Yeah, he looks like he could play like a major in a movie about World War II. As a comedian, he says, I'm pretty middle of the road, meat and potatoes. I talk about being married and having a kid, a very blue-collar, very Midwest sense of humor. Don't take yourself too seriously. Gardell said he got zero pushback from the makers of Bob Hart's Abishola about the weight loss. Creator Chuck Lorre told them, we'll just acknowledge it in the show that you're taking better care of yourself because that's the truth. And speaking of weight loss, Ian Karmel spoke to the Today Show and said, I was eating myself to death before losing 200 pounds without weight loss drugs. Karmel says, I have a joke I tell on stage, but it's based in reality. You could walk into a doctor's office with a samurai sword sticking out of your torso, and before the doctor gets to the sword, they're going to say, you really need to lose some weight. Ian tells us, I always plan ahead. I'm not hungry when I go to the grocery store. I get fruits, vegetables, cauliflower rice, lean proteins, and that's what I'm going to have in my house. I pre-cook my meals so they're ready if I get home at 8 p.m. In the past, I would have ordered food and eaten 3,000 calories without even thinking about it. I walk 10,000 steps a day, no matter what. I go for a walk in the morning. He mustn't have a podcast to record. In the evening, I got to start running again. And then just throughout the rest of the day, which adds up to 10,000 steps, that's my baseline. Nice job, Ian Karmel. All right, Joe Coy, I hope I get to watch it tonight. I also have to do my annual rewatch of Star Trek 2. That's something I do every year on or about June 4th. Can I do both? I don't think I can stay awake that long. Pay attention to those promos. Sign up. Ad free, all that. Yeah, you've heard the promo. See you tomorrow.